welcome back to my channel. My name is Tina, and today I'm just going to do a get ready with me, stuff that's going on in my life, why my video uploads have been insanely sporadic. Like, I'm trying to get 2 videos up a week. I think I usually am, but they're definitely not on my usual updates, and I know that that can cause people problems. It definitely affects my views, so I'm really sorry about that. How long is going to be before I'm going to be super consistent again? It may be a bit, and we're going to go over why that is. Lately, I've been insanely sick. Just doing the videos I'm doing anything makes me extremely nauseous. I guess not just like nauseous, holy crap, throwing up everything you've ever eaten, sick as a dog. That's coming from literally anything I do. And it was worse last month when I didn't upload at all for a week or so. It was because of that. Like, there was just no way that I could even do a video. I had a reaction to a medication that they wanted to try me on. I have been diagnosed now with having Adhesive Arachnoiditis, AA for short, because that's a really long mouthful. Adhesive Arachnoiditis is a rare disease, and there's some debate in the medical world about it right now, how to treat it, and different doctors have different ideas, and very few doctors will actually treat it. I had a neurology appointment yesterday, and when I went to my appointment and I had a letter from a very well-renowned and respected adhesive arachnoiditis doctor who diagnosed me, he looked at it, went over it, and said flat out, "Our office, we don't treat this. I'm going to have to send you to the pain management center because there's very little we can actually do with it." And I said, well, this is what I was told to use, and I gave him the protocol that was come up with by Dr. Tennet, and he didn't have a problem with it. He just said doctors who are independent and are able to do their own thing have a lot more freedom than we do, that work in hospitals or for clinics. They're like the cowboys of the doctor world. Sometimes we need cowboys, and I understand why with your condition, that's the type of doctors. Now, I've never heard of it, like 80-some-year-old guy being referred to as a cowboy, but okay. I mean, it leaves you in this really sucky position. When you have a rare disease, you've had it diagnosed, so they know you have it. What happens with rare diseases is other doctors, like, there are a lot of doctors who don't like them. Either they'll do what this neurologist did, which was to say, look, this isn't my field and I don't treat it, which is like the most honest answer. So you know why I'm doing my foundation kind of weirdly. This is the foundation, Studio Skin. I love this foundation, but it dries insanely fast. You need to use something damp to put it down. Well, and what I'm doing is I'm in little splotches and then blending it out. I do prefer it with a brush. I have this brush here. It's huge. It looks so much better, in my opinion, when you do it with a brush, but you have to be fast. This foundation looks amazing on me. It's not going to work for everybody. If you're used to doing your foundation all at once, you may not like this at all because it can dry down before you get a chance to blend it. And if that happens, you'll have like spots on your face that, once it's dry, are very difficult to get out. It's stuck there in like this creasy looking nastiness. I'm gonna set that with my Tarte Soft Light, and I'm just using a tiny amount of that. I have the Adhesive Colors mini palette and then the eyeliner. That is so cute. I'm gonna swatch it for you. And that's the blush, and the blush is also super pretty. So this palette does not have a good base shade for me. So I have my Juvia's Place Magic palette sitting here. I'm just going to take this shade here. I haven't done my brows, so get ready to watch this fiasco. It could take a while. This is the iconic London Brow Cushion. It is, oh my god, amazing. My brows are done. They are nowhere near twins at all. They're half-sisters, maybe. Yeah, weird eyebrows and all. I'm going to start off with this red. They are intensely pigmented. Back to the story. When I was at my neurologist before I saw the specialist, and I got really lucky. He's from California. He happened to be here in Montana because this is where a very good friend of the family lives, and they come here a couple times a year. Really nice people. absolutely love them. So honored that they were like, you know, come on over, have dinner. We'll look at this stuff and figure out if that's what's going on or not. As you can guess, it's a really small community. Unfortunately, it is growing, and then there are the people who just don't know, because you can get things that are similar to arachnoiditis and have a lot of the same symptoms, because nerve damage can be very misleading. How did I get arachnoiditis? That's a good question, right? My story is a whole lot different than most people's. With my first son, I live in a very rural area of Montana, and they do childbirth differently. In fact, the way they do it here, and it's like 70% of women deliver vaginally in rural areas because of the way they do things differently versus cities. And it's not because we're magically better. I grew up in a freaking city. They use a different method for helping you through the labor. Instead of using a epidural, if you want an epidural, you need to go into a city instead of one of the very small local hospitals. But that's where my doctor was, and you know, just went locally. No big deal, right? His birth was super fast, super easy. Your birth delivery is slow. Everybody tells you that. Go home. You're not gonna deliver till tomorrow sometime. Pretty much what I was told. My doctor went home. About 30 minutes later, the nurse is calling saying, if you don't get back here in 10 minutes, we're having this baby without you. Alright, I'm using black. When I first got there, they'd given me something called an intrathecal. An intrathecal is not like an epidural. You can walk around, you can get into all sorts of positions. You're not hooked up to anything except for the standard stuff they hook you up to when you're delivering a baby. So, fetal heart monitor and an IV, which you can move around with both those things pretty well, and they'll unhook you from that stuff if you need to walk around. With my first son, I did. I was all over the place. It was super easy. I didn't have any problems. It was so fast. I had the baby about 2.5 hours after they had broke my water. After I delivered him, I got these weird allergy symptoms. I was rubbing my nose raw because I was so itchy. I mean, I was itchy, and I didn't know why. I finally went to the nurse's station. I am so itchy. I'm itchy everywhere. Like, my nose itches, like, my body itches. I am so itchy. And they said, oh, it must be because of the medication they gave you. You didn't need it, so now it's, like, overwhelming your body, and you're itchy. So they gave me some Benadryl, and I was fine. So I think that came back to bite me. A few years later, I get pregnant with my second child, and I have a new doctor. It's at the same hospital, the same anesthesiologist, and they all remember how fast my labor was. So they were like, no long-acting medication for you. They did the intrathecal, which is like an epidural, but it doesn't go in as far. This is not supposed to. And immediately, it felt different. There was a lot going on. He was in distress and had been in distress. It was just one big nightmare, start to finish. He had his umbilical cord wrapped around his neck multiple times, and it was tied in something called a crew knot. Now, if you've never seen one of those, and most people have not, thank God, it literally looks like someone took the umbilical cord and tied it in a freaking knot. Like a square knot right there. Scary as hell. At that time, you couldn't see it on monitors or anything. He sent me in for so many damn ultrasounds trying to figure out what was going on. He wouldn't move at all. And then his heartbeat would do weird things every now and then. Not all the time, just every now and then. They spent months trying to figure out what the hell was going on, but nothing was showing up. That doctor, he's still my doctor. He did everything he could think of to figure out why I was having problems. To our little town in Montana, he had people driving there super fast, so they had a respiratory specialist come in the middle of a blizzard. They did everything they could think of to try to stop things from happening, and I'm positive what he did do saved my son's life. I'm not mad at my doctor, well, that doctor over this whole thing. There's several doctors who were involved in saving my son's life. I don't blame a single solitary one of them. When I had my intrathecal, which is, again, it's like an epidural, but it's not supposed to go into your spine as far. Spinal canal. Okay, so this is that Dose of Colors eyeliner. This is the super, super shimmery one. I'm going to put a black one down first because this will not show up. It'll look great over black. When I had my first epidural, it went exactly, it felt exactly like the guy said it was going to. With my second one, with my youngest son, they were already freaking out. So when they broke my water, it didn't come out, and that's not a good sign. So my doctor literally feel him scooping stuff out of me. It's called thick dark meconium, and I've seen meconium in water before. It tinges the water green. This was not like this. This was thick. If they had not induced my labor then and broke my water, he probably would have died. Well, my doctor looked at that and went, oh crapola. They hooked me up to a machine that pumps amniotic fluid back into you. So by the time they were doing my intrathecal, I wasn't paying much attention to any damn thing. I was too worried about what was going on, and what I didn't know, what the doctor didn't know at the time, was that was being caused because as the baby comes down the birth canal, the umbilical cord gets pulled tight, and when there's a true knot in it, no oxygen for the baby. And that literally, umbilical cord feeds that baby oxygen right through until delivery. Because that's why some women can push for hours and the baby's still okay. In my case, that wasn't working. Because I have really fast labors. The respiratory therapist literally made it. I believe he got out of his car, ran into the building, the baby was born, they scooped him up and ran, like with him in their arms, which is against hospital protocol. I am not complaining. I just happen to know it's against hospital protocol because that hospital is super picky about pushing the baby around and not carrying it. So he comes in, he takes the baby. My pushing phase lasts maybe 15 minutes. It's really fast. They take the baby and their room was dead silent. Like it was dead silent. I don't know if you've ever been in a delivery room where everything's dead silent, but that's like the scariest place on earth. Because most delivery rooms are loud, nobody's talking, and everybody's laughing because you just had a baby and all that stuff. Not so when shit goes wrong. I believe his APGAR score was 3. It was really bad. They take him off to do what they're gonna do. I am delivering the afterbirth. At this point, like I was having medical issues of my own. My heartbeat was out of control. My blood pressure was out of control for no reason. Like it was just went from being fine to insane. It's scary when all the machines are like, something's wrong with you. I deliver the afterbirth, and normally after you deliver the afterbirth, yes, you're still in a little bit of pain, but mostly it's gone. Like it's like instant relief. After you're done with that, it's kind of like, whew, all done. But mine didn't go away. And they got all fascinated when I delivered the afterbirth because of the umbilical cord. Like that was their total focus. The nurses are all over there going, oh my God, you need to look at this, and like literally turn me around so I could see what the hell had been going on. And my doctor's like looking at it, a state of shock going, I've only seen 3 of these. We would have done a C-section if we'd known this. Scary, weird problems. And I was so distracted by my son and what was going on with him that I wasn't paying close attention to what was going on with me and why my body wasn't right. And it wasn't right. My first son, during pushing, reached up, gave my husband a kiss, and told him I loved him. That's how easy my first delivery was. I've had several doctors say that was like the first time I ever heard that before. I have this trio from Tarte that I'm going to use. Highlight is gorgeous. They're worried about my son too, which he's now not even in the room. I'm stressed out about that. I was having issues and I didn't know why. And I didn't say anything right then. I was too busy asking about what was going on with my son. About 6 hours later, because another woman, he was also delivering another baby that same night, a friend of mine actually. So he didn't get in to see me like he normally would right afterwards. And he comes in, he said, how are you doing? And I said, I have some questions. And he said, I bet you do. And my first questions were about my son. Would that not be affecting him for the rest of his life? Because that is where for 9 months he was getting all of his oxygen, all of his nutrients, all of everything. And most babies who have that live to about 6 months, and then they pull it tight and they die in utero. It's a sucky thing to have. There's no way to do much of anything about it. You can't untie it. And he said, well, I sent it off to the labs for testing. We've got his lungs aspirated. He's breathing very, very well. He doesn't need to be in neonatal thingies. He's doing great, and we're gonna keep an eye on that. And I said, okay, one other thing. I'm in a lot of pain. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, after that delivery, that, you know, I'm like, no, I'm in a lot of pain. certain things are making it feel like labor didn't stop. I am in so much pain that when I would try to nurse my son, oh, I thought this was going to be easier because it's been a long time. When I tried to nurse my son, I was in so much pain, my body was shaking, like literally going into shock trying to nurse him. Whenever they'd come and do the uterine massage, I was in so much pain, it literally felt like hell. So he prescribed me some pain medicine. He goes home and he comes back the next day and he asks me how I'm doing. And I said, I'm still in a lot of pain. I can't hardly walk. When I nurse my baby, it's much, much worse. And not only that, but I'm now starting to get something weird going on with my leg. He says, close your eyes. I got my lipstick on. This was from Colored Rain. So back to this story. Sorry, I should have put a trigger warning at the beginning of this because, the next day, he's got this paper clip and he unbends it. Okay, weird. What is going on here? He's like, I need you to close your eyes. So then he starts poking me gently all over the place, like from like my waist down. He's like poking, poking, poking. And he asks if I can feel it, can't feel it. And it's sort of like this intermittent thing, like sometimes he'd wait a few seconds longer or he'd like suddenly go from the top to the bottom. When he was done, he said, okay, so here's what's going on. You have some sort of nerve damage from the delivery. This does happen, not usually in cases like your delivery, but it does happen. They usually resolve in a couple of weeks to a few months. But if it isn't resolved in 2 weeks, you have to go see a neurologist, you have to see a specialist. And he said, in the meantime, I'm going to prescribe you some pain medicine because we know that this is very painful. So my first question is, whatever you prescribe me, I'm nursing my son, please make sure that whatever it is isn't something that's going to cause him any harm, because I want to breastfeed, which was, looking back on it, slightly insane. I probably should have skipped that whole deal and said, my body can't do this, but I didn't. I was stubborn and I wanted to do it. I actually do think that breastfeeding helped my son in ways that can help your children, especially when they have been deprived of nutrients, and that had happened to him very severely. He was very small. 5 pounds 6 ounces, I think, even though he was full term. They kept me in the hospital for 3 days with him. Like with my first son, they sent me home the next day. I wasn't even in the hospital 12 hours. I was in the hospital for almost 4 days, and my doctor didn't want to release me. He was quite convinced something was going on. He didn't know what. He's delivered a lot of babies. He was like, something's not right here. I don't know what it is, but something's wrong. We came home. I went to bed. And we set up a cradle in our bedroom so I didn't have to move around any at all, because that was like the big thing, was getting me somewhere where I could just be there, feed the baby, do whatever, and not have to get up and move. So I had everything like by the bed and everything, like all the diapers and stuff, and my husband took some time off work. It was going to be great, right? We're going to have a few weeks to just sort of relax and hopefully get over whatever was going on. Came home in the morning. We went to bed maybe around 10 o'clock. And up to then, Gabriel had been pretty normal, like a baby normal. I woke up probably at midnight and fed him, and I must have fallen asleep. I woke up, and it was probably 9 o'clock in the morning. And if you've ever had an infant and you get 9 hours of sleep, you freak out immediately. Instant heart attack. Throw the lights off the baby, and he's still asleep, but he's not the right color. He's like he's blue, like not dark blue. He's breathing because he woke up when I picked him up, but he was blue. I literally didn't even wait for my husband and my other son to get up. I threw him in his car seat and I flew to the doctor's office. Not like to the hospital, to the doctor's office that's near me. I was like, holy shit, what is wrong here? I bring him in and I see a nurse that I know. I didn't even go to the front desk. Saw a nurse I know who had been there throughout my whole pregnancy. And she's like, what's going on? Because she could tell I was terrified. And I said, something is wrong with Gabriel. And she pulls down the blanket, picks up the car seat, and football players it, sprinting for the end line, back to the first doctor she finds, and thrusts him at him and said, he's blue, something's wrong. So he goes to another room. The nurse in the meantime, so I follow the baby, the nurse goes sprinting down the hall I had no idea where she was going. She was gone. She was like, zoom. My regular doctor comes in, and this other doctor is looking at the baby going, he's fine. I have to see what's wrong. And the nurse and the other doctor come in right then. Dr. Gutches is looking at him, and I see this look on his face that I've seen a few times now over the years. It's this look of, he's like concerned and puzzled. And he turns to the nurse, and I tell them he's turning blue. I don't know why he's turning blue, he's turning blue. The nurse who had taken him without even saying anything to me goes, he was very blue. He must wake up and start breathing normally again or something, or his heartbeat picks up or something, who knows. While he's sleeping, he's turning blue. Anyways, we end up spending 2 weeks in the hospital with him. And during that 2 weeks, I, of course, could give a shit about what was going on with me. I did not care. I actually had to go from the hospital to the clinic, which was right across from each other, because they made me go see my doctor one day. They're like, no, you're going to walk over there, you're going to leave the baby for a couple hours, and they're going to look at you. And they were awesome. They'd like, it's a tiny hospital. It is tiny. So they set up in their little hospital that doesn't have a NICU center. They set up a little NICU center with a bed for me and the whole works. And it was right there at the nursing station, so if I needed help, I could just knock on the door. They did all kinds of tests. They found out he had a bacteria, so he had to have antibiotics for a couple weeks. And I end up going over, to the clinic, and my doctor's over there going, look, I understand you're worried. Whatever is going on with you is also a major concern. If we don't deal with this and find out if there's something causing it, it could also be permanent. The first neurologist I saw sent me for an MRI and all that stuff and said, I think when the injection was given, he injected you too far and made a mistake. And it ended up in the wrong area of your spinal canal. So hopefully this will resolve, but we don't know. That's one of those mistakes that sucks, and I don't know for sure that's what happened, but that's my guess, because you can literally still see on that MRI the injection point. But what I think happened was this. That first visit actually gave me no answers to me at the time, but looking back on it over the time, it actually did give me the answers to what happened. When I was injected, I think I was allergic to the medication that was in it, especially when they injected it too far into my spinal cord. When you do that, if you have an allergic reaction to a medication, it can cause adhesive arachnoiditis. That's one of the causes of it. I'm pretty sure that was mine, because the first time I'd had an interthecal, I was so itchy. So I can only imagine what happens when you inject that shit right into where your nerve endings are. Not good. It's not good. That injection site and below is where I have adhesive arachnoiditis that you can see on the MRI. Now, after that, I had all sorts of tests because nobody would give me any answers. It took me 18 years to get answers. I had nerve conduction studies that prove I have nerve damage. They proved I had nerve damage and was still there and very severe months later. And then I saw another neurologist in Missoula who hooked me up to all sorts of stuff, was able to pinpoint exactly where my actual nerve damage was, not just where it started out, but where it was at. It was in my lumbar sacral plexus. That is where the majority of my adhesive arachnoiditis is. Adhesive arachnoiditis spreads, and that's what's been happening to me lately. I didn't know that this is what I had until my nerve damage started spreading. Nerve damage doesn't spread, just so you know. When you have nerve damage to an area, it stays there. It doesn't go wandering around to other places. Most of my nerve damage is in my pelvic region, and I had a pelvic specialist, PT person, and she was like, something's going on here because areas of your pelvis that were responsive 2 years ago are no longer responding at all. When they look for reflexes, mine don't work. I have no reflexes from my knees to my feet. And those are all signs that you have spinal damage. I have this, and then they've tried me on medications, and those medications combined together and gave me something called serotonin syndrome, which is mostly people who are overtaking their antidepressants, but I don't take a single antidepressant because your brain is a nerve, and I take a lot of nerve medications. They all combine together to create the serotonin syndrome. I have weird reactions to medications. I'm just lucky that way. Most people, if you stop taking it, it goes away within a week. But for some of us whose brains apparently don't adjust quickly because it messes with your serotonin receptors, keep overproducing serotonin until it stops. And apparently mine is going to take a couple months, and there's nothing they can do about it. And that sucks. Because now I've been talking to you, my back and my legs are killing me. and I'm nauseous. To me, this is not my best look ever. Please do not blame it on the palette. This is all on me today. Stressed, talking about this, making me emotional. If you have a chronic illness, a rare disease, oh my God, rare disease people. You watch House and people get rare diseases and they're like, we will find you. Find the answers. No matter how much money it takes. We are gonna call the ends of the earth to the doctor who retired 20 years ago and knew everything about it. We're gonna find him, we're gonna track him down, we're gonna do all the tests, and we're gonna know what's wrong with you. That is bullshit. They don't do that. So one thing I lucked out on, because they did do nerve conduction study tests, and mine were very positive. You can get arachnoiditis and it comes in stages, and most people have a first stage before they get, like, their pain, it builds up to being in the level mine was. So mine went from no pain to holy shit, I'm still in labor pain all at once. Most people don't, thank God, have that problem. They build it up over time. And I'm sorry if you're there, if you're just getting there, if you're just discovering you have arachnoiditis because of the fact that you're starting to get this pain, I'm so sorry. Trial by fire, baby. Now I have this, and now I have doctors who know about it, but won't treat it because there really isn't a great treatment for it. Things that they do for it are very experimental. My neurologist calls them cowboys and said that we need them type of doctors because without them we don't discover new stuff. So I'm very thankful for that. It's just been one crazy journey. So if you are on that journey anywhere, for any reason, for any chronic illness, chronic pain issue, I'm so sorry. And I'm sorry if you're not being heard. I promise you, there are good doctors out there. There can just be hard to find. I got lucky and my general practitioner is amazing. Now my neurologist, those people are nuts and doesn't listen to me. My general practitioner does listen to me and he's awesome. I'm at the stage of finding out what's going on, what actually happened, that it was actually that injection. And here's the part that pisses me off. Attorneys were all over the place trying to figure out what happened because they either want to defend what happened or they want to say it didn't happen or they want you to sue the hospital. They went through my records and went through my records, but the anesthesiologist stole his records out of my medical records, so they're not in there in most of my records anymore. I had a friend who worked at the hospital and we know that they were in there prior, but they weren't in there after. It's one of those sucky deals. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!